Godfather. Pulled up to the scene in a 65 Bentley, dripped in Brioni, China doll with me, looking like a supermodel. Oh, what a feeling. 25 years old, 25 million. Today's the audition for the Godfather part. My life's already a movie, so when do I start? I walk up in Patsy's, East 119th Street. Fat Tony Salerno gets a kiss on the cheek. I know my way around, not my first time here. Been doing overnight Ziganet loans for 10 years. I say hello to Danny Pagano and Tough Tony. Nicky Domino gives me a nod, they all know me. They ask why I'm there so early, I say the part. They say what part? I say the movie, why not? I don't look like Carlo, they all begin laughing. 3 p.m. ready for the lights, camera. Before all of the wins in my portfolio, I was a little boy diagnosed with polio.
Welcome, everybody. It's time for another Hollywood Godfather podcast. And tonight we have really a special friend and colleague, writer, and he has an interesting subject that I was part of my whole life, and I can't wait to hear his viewpoint on it. But first, I'll introduce our co-writer, my compadre, and co-host, Patrick Picciarelli.
You get the name. It's only been 10.
I'm just waking up.
Anyway, well, we are here tonight. We're going to introduce, and we are introducing Casey McBride, who runs a Facebook page called Uncle Frank's Place, and I've been on it. I'm a friend of Casey's on Facebook, and when I found this, it fascinated me that somebody would devote all the time they have to devote to Frank Costello, and the guy knows his stuff. So without further delay, let me introduce you to Casey McBride.
Hello,
Casey.
Nice to meet you guys.
Our pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Go. First, let's start off by telling our subscribers who you are.
Well, my name is Casey McBride. I live in Portland, Oregon. I'm a musician here in Portland. I've got 2 EPs out of music that I wrote. One is Gangsters and Ghosts Volume 1, and the other is Gangsters and Ghosts Volume 2. All the songs are about real gangsters.
What instrument do you play?
My main instrument is drums, but on this album, I play pretty much all the instruments myself. I have a little studio here in my house and do that just here at home. And I've done some music for some podcasts like Gangland Wire and a couple of mob documentaries like the Savella Wars, Brothers Against Brothers, that our friend Gary Jenkins, who I know you guys have interviewed before, that's his documentary. But
and Corky Savella and all those guys are very close to me.
Yeah, that's an interesting story they have there in Kansas City. And I run a Facebook page and an Instagram page that is dedicated to, like you said, Frank Costello. And I just, anytime I find any information on Costello, pictures, stories, movies, it doesn't have to be historical. Sometimes it's just entertainment or, for fun. Right. I post it there for people to see and try to have like one spot on the internet that people can go to and find all that stuff if they're doing research and things like that. So
okay, before we get into that, tell our listeners where they can get your music.
It's available on all the digital formats like iTunes and Spotify. If you just look up Casey McBride or Gangsters and Ghosts, it'll pop up in there.
Okay.
And what ghost are you writing about?
Well, one of the songs is about the canary that could sing and couldn't fly. So I got that one is a bit about a ghost, but yeah, that was a fun project to do. It's not often that you get to mix your interests. My interest in mob history and music, you wouldn't think they would go together that well, but they do. There's some good stories.
I've been doing it all my life.
Yeah, I mean,
40 years of singing about mob.
Yeah, there's great stories. It's great subject matter to come up with, So
how did you pick Frank Costello to focus on? Why him?
Well, when I started getting kind of interested in the real history of the mob, I've always been a fan of movies, obviously The Godfather and Midnight Run, all those movies, anytime a mob movie comes out, I watch it. But I decided to try to learn a little bit more about the real history of it. And I bought that book, The Five Families from Sell and Rab, which is an excellent book. And it covers a lot of ground, but Costello has his own section in that book. He was such an immense figure in that world. He just fascinated me. He had sort of a different angle than a lot of the other mob guys you read about, being more of kind of a fixer.
And he was a gentleman.
Yeah, he was just an interesting guy. Even set aside the gangster aspect of it, he was a pretty interesting, guy. He had a lot of interesting things about his character and his quotes. He was a witty guy, and so he just kind of stuck out among all the other characters. And I got a book. I got Uncle Frank's Place one time for Christmas as a gift. Read that, and then I was hooked. I bought everything I could find on the guy, and luckily there's quite a bit compared to a lot of other mob.
Oh my God!
Oh, there is.
So he's a good guy to study.
Fascinating guy. His business accolades are amazing. Most people don't even know yet, because some of the buildings he still owns.
Yeah, that side of him is completely the opposite of me. I think a lot of times you become interested in things that are, that whole life. I'm over here on the West Coast in Portland, and didn't grow up around any of that, but it's always been kind of exotic and fascinated me. And but Frank, with that his business acumen, and just as an organizer, when during Prohibition, with all the ships and all the things that he was doing, and you're doing, he's doing all this. You can't really keep records. It's not like today where you have computers and stuff. He's doing all this in his head, keeping track of all that stuff. And I found it fascinating.
So when you first started doing the research, did you have an objective of putting your wealth of information on Facebook, or that came as an afterthought?
That was an afterthought. I wrote a couple pieces for a website called the nationalcrimesyndicate.com. This is years ago. And it's, strictly a hobby. This whole thing is really just a hobby for me. But just one day on a lark, my brother, convinced me to get on Facebook so that we could communicate a little bit easier. And I resisted for a long time. And once I finally got on, I decided, well, I'm going to put up, one on Frank Costello. Maybe I'll get 50, 75 people will come on here that are interested in, and we can talk, maybe they can share some information. But kind of once I put it up, it took off. I mean, I would have never imagined some of the things that have come out of that little Facebook page, that I've been able to do, and some of the people I've been able to meet. That was all a surprise. I had no idea.
How many years you doing this now?
How long's the page been up?
I think, when did I put it up? I think it was 2017. I don't even remember now. It's been, so long. But it took off pretty quick, like right away. A lot of his, as soon as I put it up, some of his family members contacted me.
That's interesting.
Not something I expected. And one of his relatives, I'd only had it up about a week, and he messaged me and he said, call me. I want to talk to you. And I pretty much thought that meant, he wanted it taken down. So, it's Noel Castilla, and he's a cousin of Costello's, and he helps me with the page sometimes.
So he kept the original name.
He did, yes, yeah. His side of the family. He really didn't have any much contact with Costello. He was, that side of his family. He saw him once, but was never really allowed to, to be around him and to associate with him back in the day. But
was he living in America or Sicily?
Yeah, no, he was born here and grew up here.
Okay, so he's a younger guy.
He's older. He's in his 80s. I believe he's mid 80s right now.
Uh-huh.
So he ended up being as interested in it as I was. He didn't call me to tell me to take it down. He wanted to talk, and
he couldn't tell you to do that anyway.
Yeah, true. But
but how's it going to accomplish that?
Being that it's a hobby and how I do this, like if he were to ask me to take it down, I would. He's a really nice guy. We've become good friends. And if there was something on there that he didn't like or he found distasteful, and he asked me to remove it, I would, no question.
Oh, yeah, taking some of it down. I mean, if he's offended by it, but I mean, to take the whole thing down, why? That's just my opinion, anyway.
Have any of Frank Costello's contemporaries contacted you?
I haven't really had much contact with anything like that. What is
most of them are dead anyway?
Yeah, that's that was one of the things about doing this with Frank. He's all that is in the past now, and it's a little safer, I guess you could say, to delve into this stuff. It's not really anything that it hasn't already been out there or anything. If this was a current mob guy or something like that, I probably wouldn't even attempt something like this,
So you found, obviously, you told me you have something like 7,700 subscribers.
Yeah.
Okay, so there are people out there who have an interest like you do, or maybe even more interested. And when they found you, they must have, jumped on this, given the opportunity, to be in the company of other people who have the same interest. What's the basic posts like? I mean, what are people looking for on this page? Are they sharing things? Are they looking for information? Are they finding information? What?
I think a little bit of all that. Mainly, one of the main things that I post, I'm always on the lookout for pictures, for new photographs or film. Through the page, I made some contact with some people whose relatives were in business with Frank. And one instance, a guy, Diamond Jim Moran down in New Orleans, his grandson, and I have become pretty good friends, and he had home footage of Frank and his dad on a boat, fishing in New Orleans.
Oh, they love fishing, man.
Yeah, and
out every weekend.
Yeah, and I got contacted by the Smithsonian American, that show? It's America in Color, where they take old black and white footage and they colorize it and make documentaries out of it. And they did the one on Prohibition, and they contacted me, and I was able to put them in touch with Bobby and got that footage on there. And so there was, like home movies of him. Recently, I went to the Mob Museum to see the Al Capone home footage. It was
where in Vegas?
Yeah, they got some footage from Capone's family when they auctioned off a lot of his stuff. And he had a film canister that he took in 1929, one of the first, video cameras, or not even a video camera, it's a film.
Yeah, Magstripe.
Yeah, and
I remember that.
Yeah, and it's Luciano and Frank down in
Florida.
Yeah, hanging out at his pool
on that island.
Yeah. No, so I got to see that. So things like that are kind of the finds that I'm always on the lookout for.
Yeah, that's great stuff.
Some footage or something like that, and luckily with Frank, there's actual audio of him talking too. So he had that voice and everything.
Oh my
so
God,
it's great to be able to hear the voice, to the pictures, because a lot of those guys, like Capone and I think even Luciano, I don't know if there's any recorded audio of them speaking. So
I have actually a lot of Luciano, because he was very close to, I don't know if you know this guy's name, Ugo Buffa in Sicily.
Yeah,
and
I've heard the name.
Yeah, he's. I just saw him.
Wow.
In October, yeah.
Yeah, see that's something I'd never have heard, like anything of Luciano talking or something like that. But those are big finds if you can get them. But a lot of that stuff, it's locked away with family, and they don't want to, put it out there.
Oh no, and right now, I mean, it's, if they're not involved, why stir it up? And it brings they don't want the attention, number one. And I just did at a dinner, he knows, Pat knows, I went to Sicily for the 50th anniversary of Godfather. And the gentleman who hosted it rented the compound where Pacino was living with Albolonia.
Oh, wow.
Oh, it was really interesting. But what was more interesting, a guy showed up around 11 o'clock at night with an entourage, and it was Ugo Buffa's son. They knew I was there, and he came to pay his respects. The party went silent. I'm talking about 200-something people. He must have a living legend in Sicily. We were in Sicily, and to see these guys show up was like, my date almost fainted, because this guy. I mean, they have that look. There's certain guys that have that look, and you look in their eyes and you don't see anything. It's like scary guy. But anyway.
Did you go to his the apartment building where he lived in New York, Casey, at all?
I tried to get in to see the lobby, and but the doorman wasn't having it. I've had a few friends that also there's a gentleman, Mike Mafucci, that helps me with the Frank's place too, and he actually lives in New York, and he's tried to go there and take a look inside too, but they wouldn't let him in. I get the feeling, we're not the only ones who have asked. It sounded like that he gets asked a lot about that.
Well, funny you should bring that up. After John Lennon got killed, I was guarding Yoko Ono with a bunch of other cops, New York City cops.
Wow.
John and Yoko liked New York City cops. In fact, when the city wouldn't give us bullet-resistant vests, I don't like to use the term bulletproof because they're not. But anyway, the city said, "Oh, it isn't in our budget. We can't afford it." They volunteered to get vests for every cop on the job. 48,000 cops. That comes to a few dollars.
That's amazing.
It embarrassed the city so much that they wound up springing for the vests. But anyway, Yoko lived across the street in the Dakota, which is where Rosemary's Baby was filmed. So we were and it's directly across the street, on the same corner, in fact, just the opposite corner.
Right.
And we'd be leaving the building all the time, and everybody knew who we were. So one day I decided to go to Frank's building and asked to see if I could see the lobby. What I wanted to see was the elevator, because that's where he was shot. They let us in because we had the entree, we had the shields.
Different situation.
You could basically go anywhere. So it was fascinating. I saw the elevator. I never told you about this, Johnny. When Casey started talking about it, it just reminded me. And we went in there, looked at the elevator, and I'm thinking to myself,
there was no way he could miss. None.
Exactly. Yeah. I said, if you're looking to kill someone, like, allegedly it was an attempted hit, and Frank zigged and zagged, and he almost dodged a bullet. But if you're looking to kill somebody, I mean, it's an elevator. It's like a closet. How do you miss somebody? What's the story behind that?
Well, I'm glad that they did, I guess.
Yeah. Frank.
Otherwise, there wouldn't be as much stuff to post. But, I've heard a lot of different, pretty much every legend out there about Costello. I've heard 5 different versions of them at this point, from different people and stuff. And I know there's a lot of folks out there that say that he missed by design. I don't know. That seems like that would be a pretty difficult shot for somebody to make, to graze somebody's head like that. But
Chin was a smart kid. I can tell you.
That's the shooter.
Chin Gigante. But the funniest thing, 2 weeks after that, and after he didn't recognize, and then all of that with the police, they all had dinner together.
That's what I've heard. Yeah. Just, that's, we ask why you're, I get interested in this. It's like stories like that you just, they're unbelievable.
He wanted to step down. Most people don't realize he was already working with Meyer Lansky, working with Tony Accardo in Chicago, and they were moving on. And he basically, when Vito came out, he was jealous of, because he was so well liked and respected. Vito never had that.
Vito Genovese.
Yeah, Vito Genovese. And so he was happy to give the family back. So I don't know who orchestrated this and why, but it all worked out perfectly for everybody, and that was it.
Because that's the way I've always kind of understood it too, from what I've kind of gathered, is that Frank was really, he was wanting to get out of that whole thing at that point. I mean, he'd been through so much at that point. Everybody knew who he was, and
he amassed a major fortune. He already had over 45 million.
Yeah, I mean, he was one of those guys that he's doing fine on his own. Some of those guys, I think, they need the mob to be successful. But Frank's one of those guys. I think that they needed Frank more than he needed them, in a way, because he was perfectly capable of just being successful. On his
legitimate business, definitely, yeah. I'm reaping the harvest of it yet. This is, like I said. When he died, I was called to the lawyer's office. I've been in there so many times bringing envelopes, and He left me 6 units in here. He owns the building.
It's amazing. Yeah.
It's crazy.
And one of the apartments came with 47 phones.
Yeah, mine. My bedroom had 12 riders constantly on the wire service.
Wow.
Yeah. You still use one of his phone numbers, right, Gianni?
I still have it. Yeah. Yeah. Plaza 3. Nobody has that number.
That's great.
8171.
You know, that whole shooting thing goes to show the difference between what the mafia used to be compared to what it is now. I mean, 2 weeks after the shooting, the victim and the shooter get together at a dinner, and the shooter thanks the victim for not turning him in. But that's the way business was conducted in those days.
Yeah, yeah.
It's just it's mind blowing to somebody like me, just that whole life and all that stuff. So it's fascinating.
Well, it gives new meaning and an opportunity from a film that I was in. It's nothing personal, Michael. It's just business.
Exactly. Are you guys aware of the new movie that's being made with Robert De Niro with him and all
They're
that?
shooting it now.
Yeah. I was
south.
lucky enough to have Deborah Messing, who's going to be playing his wife, contacted me and wanted some information on Bobby, because there's not a lot out there. And she wanted to get as much as she could, so she could.
Bobby, if anybody knows Bobby, he's going to make his own version. He ain't
right.
He's so nuts.
Yeah, well, it's going to be interesting to see. He's playing both Genovese and Costello, so that's going to be interesting. But Deborah, so she contacted me about getting information on his wife, and anything I could give her, and so I told her everything that I knew, and pointed her in a couple directions of people who actually knew her that I would never have access to be able to talk to, but I figured she might. And
it's so funny. His wife only knows him as her husband.
Right.
She knows. I mean, she couldn't tell you anything about him other than how he was as a husband and a father.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, and what life she led too. Just her story is just as interesting, really. But
when you think about it, the guy used to leave us every night and go have dinner. He went home every night for dinner. He was back out, but he was there. It was crazy. I mean, the only time he wasn't at home was he loved doing deep sea fishing. He loved going fishing. That was his pastime. Yeah, that's how they're going to kill him.
Yeah, he seemed to like the ocean and ships. That whole side of it, like with the prohibition thing.
Yeah,
I think he had a real love of the sea and sailing and stuff like that. For sure.
When did
I'm sorry, go ahead.
So when did Costello's wife pass away? Because I was trying to find information on this when I was writing our current book, if you recall, and I couldn't find it.
I believe it was shortly after he passed away. It wasn't too long. She moved down to New Orleans with her family down there,
right.
And she lived a little while, but I think probably 74.
Yeah, I think it was a year after him.
Yeah, it was only about a year after.
Yeah,
I only spoke to her on the. I spoke to her. It's funny because there was a warrant for my arrest for nothing that I had to do with it, but they thought I had something to do with the Kennedy assassination, and so I was in there was a public grade school right across the street from Frank. What the hell is that? The famous on 86th Street in Madison.
It's the Frank E. The funeral home. Yeah.
Frank Campbell.
Yeah.
Frank Campbell, yeah. So I was on the 3rd floor, and I always wear suits anyway. And the superintendent was after school, after school was out. And he said, "What are you doing in here?" I said, "I'm undercover. I'm watching the funeral next door." He said, "Oh, yeah." And he's standing next to me, talking to me like I was really a cop. And because he said, "Why are you in here?" So I got it as an aerial shot. I just wanted, the only reason I was there, because I wanted to call the wife and let her know I was there, because I couldn't go in. And I complimented her on her dress, and she knew I was there. She said, "I felt your presence." I never met her personally.
Oh, wow, yeah.
I spoke to her on the phone. She had my phone number, the number I have here. And anytime, she knew me by the kid. And most people, because of him, never knew my name until I did The Godfather.
Maybe you should, Gianni, clear up why you couldn't go to the funeral. It wasn't only because the police were looking to question you. It was because you were suspected of setting up Joe Bonanno.
Joe Colombo.
Joe Colombo, pardon me. Yeah.
Oh yeah, no. What happened was, when they on June 28, 1971, when they shot Joe Colombo, I was supposed to be on the dais because he got me the part of The Godfather. He got me that part. Without him and Barry Schlotnick, I wouldn't have been in the movie. I get a call from Tommy Bilotti of the famous Bilotti brothers, and he was the best man at my wedding. That's how close I was to the guy. And he called me. He says, "You going to the rally today?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "No, you're not." I said, "What are you talking about? I'm on the dais." He said, "I don't care if Joe Colombo was sitting on your lap. You're not going. The old man don't want you to go."
The old man being?
Carlo Gambino. But the interesting thing, thank God I called Barry Schlotnick. I said, "Barry, you got to apologize to Joe. I have a stomach flu. I ain't going. I'm not sitting anywhere but on the toilet." But if I didn't say that to him, I would have been dead. I wouldn't be here today. Wow. Because when they studied the crime photographs, on the dais, there was an empty chair with my name on it. And now everybody wanted to know why I wasn't there, including the Colombo family, which Junior Persico took over immediately. And he was a mad dog, that guy, forget it. And we got lucky, Pat and I, because he was still alive when our book was coming out.
The first one.
The first book. He died 2 days before the book came out.
Oh, wow.
Is that wild?
Yeah. Otherwise, we could have had a problem,
Because he had long arms, they used to say.
Anyway, before we continue, what do you say we go to a commercial, make us some money?
All right, I'll be right back. And don't go anywhere. We know where you live.
This is Patrick Piccarelli, co-host of the Hollywood Godfather podcast. I'm also the president of Condo Security and Investigations, a full-time investigative and security firm established in 1988. We are located in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, with worldwide affiliates. Our business paradigm is simple: to provide the most professional services possible while maintaining an ethical standard and client satisfaction. Our areas of expertise include criminal and civil investigations, asset searches, surveillance, executive protection, question documents, background investigations, computer forensics, polygraph, and many other services. Our staff consists of former law enforcement professionals with hundreds of years of combined experience. Your initial consultation is free. Visit our website, www.condorprivateeye.com, or call 724-396-2808. Thank you.
All right, we're back.
Yeah, so you couldn't go to Frank's funeral because the Colombos would have known if they're looking for you.
And they were there paying their respects to looking for people that were going there. No, that was an interesting time in my life. But that's when you could fly on the Mary Poppins, before 9/11. I used to fly in and out of here. Nobody even knew I was here. And I never stood at the illogical places. My place was the Warwick Hotel. Nobody would ever think I was at the Warwick Hotel. But it's fun. I mean,
so because you weren't there, your absence was outstanding in that. Gee, the boss gets shot. Where's Gianni?
Yeah, after being with him almost every day, he used to come to the set all the time, and a lot of his people were actually the whole Barzini crew in our movie was Joe Colombo's real crew.
Oh wow!
I mean, Georgie Boy DeChico, all those guys were real guys. Yeah. They all loved it at the wedding. There was 100 years of good behavior at the wedding. Real guys.
So as this page grows, do you find yourself getting contacted? You gave us a couple of examples, but do you find yourself getting contacted more and more by people who want to pick your brain?
I usually about once a year something comes up that's kind of interesting. Like I had the Reels Network flew me down to San Francisco once to do be a talking head on one of their shows about Frank and The Godfather. It was kind of about his connection with that movie, but yeah, generally I'll get about once a year, somebody will contact me with something surprising or interesting that, will lead to something that I didn't know, or I've been doing it so long now, I'm kind of getting to the end of, of mining all there is out there about him. So I kind of figured it would just taper off, but something will still usually come up that's interesting. About once a year, I'll generally get contacted by somebody who has been told or believes that they're his grandson or granddaughter.
Yeah.
And they'll go through like the whole DNA thing with like some family members and stuff. It's never ended up coming to anything, but that's always interesting when that happens. You're just kind of like, there's somebody who's been told all their life that he was their grandfather, and they wanted to find out.
Of guys, a lot of wannabes want to be associated. So that was a good way to tell their kids and keep the legend going.
Yeah, and back in the day, when you couldn't, there was no way to prove it. Nowadays, you can do it pretty easily. So
I don't know if you read our current book, The Sixth Family.
I haven't read that one yet. I've read the first one.
Yeah, but Pat really touched on all of that. We use a lot of that ancestry thing to tie different characters in our book, right?
Yeah, Frank Costello. The book takes place after his death, but some of it does anyway. The majority of it does, but he plays an important role in this story. It is fiction, but Frank.
And we say that loud and clear. It's fiction.
It's fiction. But Frank Costello plays a prominent role in the main plot of the book.
Oh, I definitely have to check that out. I enjoy fiction books about that kind of thing. Using.
Well, we had to because with our first book, we got away with a lot of things that were true, and fortunately, I didn't get indicted again. But
good thing. Yeah.
But we want to keep going, and so the only way we could do it. And I love our disclaimer. Does he know our disclaimer, Pat?
No, our disclaimer is this book is a work of fiction, except for the parts that are true. So that about says it all. What Johnny says is fact. We wanted to say a lot more. This guy's got like 4 books in him, as far as a stories based on his life as he lived it. But there's certain things you can't say. But if you turn it into fiction, after we go off the air, I'll get your address. I'll send you a copy.
Oh, yeah, I'd love it. Yeah, that'd be great. I think that's interesting when people use real life characters in fiction like that. I was a fan of that Godfather of Harlem there for the first few seasons when Servino was playing Frank Costello. I really enjoyed the way he played him, and unfortunately he passed away, and so his character won't be on there anymore. So,
but all of that, is. I know a lot about that. He was never involved with Bubba and those guys.
Yeah, that's
they never saw those guys.
There's a lot of that movie, The Departed. Really did a lot of, not damage, but it created a lot of confusion with Frank Costello. The character that Jack Nicholson played, they named him Frank Costello, but I think that's more based off of Whitey Bulger. But many quotes are out there now where, it says Frank Costello and people think that's him. And, it couldn't be farther from the
after someone passes away, you have free reign. You can do whatever you
want. Oh, yeah.
We could have made Costello out to be a one-eyed transvestite dwarf. He's gone. And there isn't anything to say about it. Of course, it would have taken away from the story, but
that's funny that you mentioned Whitey Bulger, because Whitey was hiding out in Santa Monica in California for a long time, which I can't believe they couldn't find him. Everything were registered under his girlfriend's name. Now, how much you might as well carry a sign? But I met him a couple of times because I knew he was there, and gave him envelopes from certain people. I started inviting him to my house for dinner.
Wow. My
little kids thought he was Uncle Whitey, like an uncle. When he got arrested, my wife wanted to kill me. This guy was coming on Sunday for dinner.
Yeah, he's another interesting character too. But
the FBI finally wised up after trying to find this guy for 13 years. They said to themselves, the light bulb goes off, and they said, we can't find him. What do you say we look for his girlfriend? And the rest is history.
How brilliant that was.
So what kind of, I've been on your page numerous times, but the audience might want to hear what kind of threads are launched, or who starts writing, what do people ask? What do they want to know? Are they sharing information? Are they asking questions? And who responds?
The main question you always get asked is, did he make his bones? That everybody wants to know, did Frank Costello, ever kill anybody or anything? And as far as I know, is the answer is no. My answer is always, though,
I'll tell you that he didn't.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if someday we found out he did, given who he was and what he did. But there's only one story really that I even know of a rival bootlegger that did get killed. And
he had people killed, but he didn't do any. He didn't do any work himself.
And I think he's, there were stories in the early days when he was a bootlegger that he could be violent, which, you want that if you're in that world. The more people think you are, the better off you're going to be. But it's like I said, as far as I know, he never did. That's the main thing people want to know.
I had a long conversation with Mario Puzo because, obviously Don Corleone is fictitious, but he has 3 Dons that created him. I don't know if you ever heard this story before. Joe Pafacci,
right,
who was the oil man, and who had all the politicians and police in his pocket, was Costello. But he liked the image because he wanted to look at soft and growing his own tomatoes and all that. And that was Carlo Gambino.
Right.
So the 3 of them together and created Don Corleone.
Yeah, that's what I've heard too. That's what I've always.
But he did numerous. He was at my house as a house guest. Him and Marlon Brando, believe it or not.
Wow.
Because I was very friendly with a guy called Johnny Agnelli, who owned Fiat Motor Company. So he used to give me his house at Chateau Benefiat in the south of France. During the film festival, he would come because I'd have all my friends come. And this year that we did this party, that was the Superman that Mario Puzo wrote.
Right.
And Marlon Brando was his father. Now, talk about a coincidence. And we had everybody up there. But I picked his brain for weeks, but he did intensive research on it.
Yeah, it shows, that we're still talking about that movie today. It's incredible. I got to say this, or my brother's going to kill me. The first time that I ever, I didn't know that I was seeing you on film, but when I was, I believe 6 or 7, my brother and I were at the drive-in and we saw the preview for the movie Laser Blast. And
oh my God,
weeks we wanted to see that movie so bad. That's all we ever talked about.
You ever hear about that movie, Pat?
No,
I was an FBI. I was an FBI informant for unidentified flying objects. Do you believe this? It was so crazy. Oh my God! It
had the 2 little claymation aliens in it, and we saw that preview, and we couldn't wait to see that movie. That was the biggest
Johnny,
thing.
No wonder you never talked about it.
Oh no! But I'm saying right now, what happened was, Franco Blanche, he was at the head of Fox, and they had Star Wars. So his brother and I created this movie. He said, come up. That's when they had double features. He's do a sci-fi movie, and I'll get you in there. So we piggybacked that all around the country. That's when the studios owned the theaters. And that's why that movie did so well. Yeah. So my ego, I said I wanted to be it. I mean, you saw it now. Or did you see the movie yet or not?
Me? Oh, yeah. We went to the drive-in, saw it like 3 times.
Oh, you're the one.
but Pat, I'm going to tell you, I had such freedom in there. He'll tell you, I'm wearing Brioni suits, driving a Cadillac. I'm supposed to be an FBI agent.
And it was all your stuff, your real stuff.
Oh yeah, no, it was on budget. I said, I ain't gonna wear that stupid stuff, white socks, brown shoes. Get out of there. Wardrobe. I said, no, I'm just my own character. Forget about it.
Yeah, I'll have to see that. But it's been, I haven't seen it since I was a kid. But
is it available anywhere? You think?
Oh, it's in circulation. Oh, it's out there somewhere.
The trailer of it is on YouTube. I watched that the other day, but like I said, my brother and I, we still talk about that movie. That was like our favorite movie when we were. I want to get a look at it. Just the Resurrection.
Laser Blast.
Yeah, well, I didn't even know about The Godfather yet. That was my first experience.
Wow. I did another movie like that created all of this. I did a movie with the Super Mario Brothers.
Oh wow!
And my little kids, my last 2. Luciano and Adriana, they used to watch that all the time. And I was the mob boss in that, and I kidnapped the princess. My daughter was so into this, She come running in the room and she's watching. She says, "You got to let the princess go." That's what I'm talking about. Because they can't relate. A 6-year-old daughter, what she's going to do. But anyway, it's so funny. But,
So what do you see with your page for the future? I mean, you're going to make any changes? Are you looking to do something you haven't already done?
Well, we have a YouTube channel too, that I would like to do more interviews maybe in the future. I've done a couple of those in the past, just different authors and things like that. Couple casino guys, and I would like to, kind of like what you guys do, just try to talk to as many people as I can that have any kind of connection, or something to offer in that. Like I said, at this point, we're getting kind of towards, it's harder and harder to find anything new.
But you got a great lead. I don't want to interrupt you, but you just said that the actress reached out who's playing his wife.
Right.
You should go visit the set with a camera.
I would love to. I wish I could. I know
she can invite you.
In Cleveland. They're doing that right now. I think she's doing the filming, but she got to talk to, like I said, one of the ladies that was with the Costellos the night that he got shot. John Miller, his mom.
Oh, John Miller.
I know. Yeah, we know John very well.
Right. I'd love to talk to him, but his mom is still alive. And
his mom?
Yeah, and she's a bartender. Somewhere.
She talked. So she got to talk to her. I told her, if there's anybody that's going to be able to give you information on what she was like, she was her friend and knew her really well.
She lived on Shelter. She lives on Shelter Island. The last time I saw her, John.
Yeah,
they live on Shelter.
She's got to be well into her 90s. John is in his 60s.
When Anthony DiStefano wrote the book, the Top Hoodlum book, I helped him on a couple of things, getting some pictures and things like that. But when he was first getting started, I said, this is the person that if you can talk to her, like I said, I don't have access to things like that, but I was like, you might be able to, and he did. And so when I was talking with Deborah about this, messaging back and forth with her, I said, I don't know if she's still alive, but you should try because you probably could talk to her. I didn't think she would be still alive, but apparently
you should use Deborah now to visit the set. I'm just kidding.
I want to be in it. I would love to be like an extra in that movie or something. That would be great.
If you go down there, she could do that in one day. I'm telling you.
I think she might be done now. I think that her part, I don't even know if she's still filming. The last time I talked to her was a couple of weeks ago, and she shot me a message and said, started filming, and she said that De Niro looks just like, Costello, the way they've got him done up. I've seen a picture of him.
Amazing.
I've seen a picture of him as Genovese, and he looks just like him. I was shocked.
So he's playing both parts.
Playing both parts, yeah.
Is that his choice? Or
I don't know. I probably. I mean, as an actor, that's probably something that would be.
Well, he likes those challenges. Well, something about Bobby. If you want Bobby to come to your house and read the newspapers for a week, pay him $1 million. He gets $1 million a week. He'll do any part you want. He don't care.
Right.
He's not in it for the craft and getting a statue. He don't want that. He wants to go to the bank.
Right.
After his 3 bad divorces, forget about it.
Yeah, he's not making
the cookie jar again.
He's not making the best film choices of late. Like you say, he'll do anything.
Well, hopefully this one will be. It's always tough with a movie like this when it's about a subject matter that you're interested in or that something about. Because you pick it apart. It's always like, well, that's not accurate. So I want to go into this one with just an open mind and hopefully.
But I don't even know if this is going to be a general release because the budget ain't that big. They gave all the money to Bobby.
Well, probably especially if he's doing 2 roles, he's getting paid twice. But
when is this supposed to drop?
I don't know about the release date yet.
By the time they edit and all that, they're probably going to come out around Christmas.
What's the title?
I hope so. I think it's called Wise Guys at this point. It's a Nick Pileggi script, and Barry Levinson is directing it. So,
oh wow, they're 2 close friends of mine.
Wow, I mean, Barry Levinson,
I love Barry.
He's made some pretty good movies. He's
some
of my favorites.
If Barry's doing it, then they got a good budget.
Yeah, and he's really good at doing those kind of period pieces. I think.
My God, yeah, he's the best. No.
Yeah, movies like The Natural and stuff. They look fantastic, and so I've got.
I didn't know it was those guys. That's
that's interesting because when they were thinking of making Nick Pileggi's book, which was titled Wise Guys, into a film, there was a problem with using that name because there was a television series of the same name.
Right.
Right, I was in it.
Changed it to Goodfellas. So finally, he's getting to use the title.
I don't know if it's going to stay that, or if that's just like a working title. But that's what I've seen printed of what they're calling it at this point.
Well, talking about that TV series, Ray Sharkey and I played the Steelgraves brothers. We did the first arc of 6 episodes of The Wise Guys, and that's when Ken Wall. They found Ken Wall pumping gas in Santa Monica. He had a great look, never did anything before in his life. And they gave him Stephen Cannell.
Wow.
Gave him that part. And the kid blew it. He blew it.
How? Yeah, you don't see him anymore.
Nowhere. They blackballed him. The show was so hot. They had him for 3 years. He would not renew. And now anybody in television do 5 years, you never work again because the royalties just keep coming. Yeah. This kid, somebody was managing him. He thought who the hell he was. He asked for astronomical numbers, and then he wouldn't renew. He never worked again anywhere.
That's tough business. That would be hard to be just thrown into that.
When you're hurting people like that, CBS, Stephen Cannell is like, one of the biggest producers at that time. And
he had numerous series on.
I was on most of them, 21.
He had Rockford Files too. You were on that.
Was that?
He had the Rockford Files, didn't he?
Yeah. Hello.
And you were on that for a while.
I did 23 Rockford Files.
Wow.
No, I mean, it's crazy. I was doing I did 200 hours of television. It was nuts. I loved it.
So I've seen you on the Rockford Files and didn't know it, I guess, because I used to watch that show all the time.
Oh, yeah. No, it's been good. But no, I think you're limiting yourself. I'd go after that. I mean, she's gone now. You're probably right.
Right.
And I didn't know that. I didn't know who was directing it. They saw you with a camera, they'd confiscate it.
No, I mean, it sounds like a pretty big, it's going to be a pretty big deal and everything.
They're shooting it down south somewhere for some reason. And they use that a lot. The unions, the city contributes and all that,
I think when she was shooting, they were in Cleveland. I've seen some pictures from the set. The one that I saw of De Niro as Genovese that they were shooting in Cleveland. I think Levinson has used that town quite a bit. So he knows it, and it's easy for him to do. So, but
that's but Barry's a great director.
Yeah.
And
I'm glad
Nick, I know Nick well. I mean, Nick endorsed our first book.
Yeah, I think he's on the one that I've got. He's talking on there, and from what I've understood from Anthony DeStefano, who knows him as well, he said Nick has always been really interested in Costello. So I'm glad that he.
Oh, I know. We
finally did this.
Well, most people don't know this. Gay Talese is his uncle.
Oh, wow.
Now imagine every Christmas I'm invited to Gay Talese's house. It lives on my block. We would go there. We'd talk for hours, and his wife would come and say, oh, you have other people here. He said, no, I got to talk to this guy. Because he loved Costello. Like you said, he was fascinated by him. He knew about him all his life. And it's Nick's, what a gentleman, though, Jesus.
Yeah. I mean, I'm surprised it took this long for somebody to make a movie about Costello. My gripe always over the years has been that nobody's, out of all the people to make a movie about, there's a lot there, you could make an incredible movie about it, and nobody ever did. But, now, thankfully, that's over. So hopefully this will be a good one.
Sometimes they invest in the wrong movie. Look what they did with The Irishman.
Oh my God! Right? Well, and guess whose investment that was? De Niro. He bought the script in, I think, 2004. That's how long.
Yeah, it did.
Wow.
It took him 14 years to get it to the screen. He's Robert De Niro.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I know on the back of this book here, it's probably you can't even see it, but there's this little poster. This was supposed to be a movie that Anthony Quinn was making about Frank after Frank died. So it was like 1973, and it said there's a major film produced and starring Anthony Quinn in preparation, but it never came to be. And I've always wondered what happened.
That's Hollywood. Johnny knows it better than anybody, but.
Oh my God, yeah.
There were probably a lot of people were still around at that time too that were involved in that story. So maybe people didn't really want that movie.
Well, and that's it. That's 73 especially. Oh my God.
Yeah, I mean, that's right.
Everybody saw The Godfather 10 times and they all wanted to be him. So John Gotti changed from, warm-up suits and running suits to Brioni suits.
Yeah. One of the questions I always get asked too at the page that you were asking about, Patrick, is people ask me if Frank saw The Godfather, and I heard he did.
He did.
Did he like screening.
It? Private screening they had for him.
What was his opinion?
Paulo Gambino was there.
Oh wow.
Oh no, they what happened when we all know that they took out Joe Colombo. Joe Colombo just appeased the world. When he made the deal, and they would tell him stop, picketing the FBI building and all this and that. He made the deal where he gets the first night premiere. I don't know if you know that.
No.
Every major city. I was a part of that deal. And every major city, that's how I told him how we make money. Because how are we going to make money with this? Because that was my approach, because I wanted the part. And he was promised in the deal, if he got the locations and secured the unions and all the stuff that they needed, we would have the first night in every major city prior to it open locally and get $100, $200 a ticket and do an event. And then the day he got shot, everything was off. In fact, the funny story, about a week later, we're shooting the scene with me and Connie. And I said, clean up, you guinea brat. And Coppola says, stop, we can't use that, remember? I said, he's dead now, who cares?
Yeah.
And he wasn't dead, he was in a coma, but brain dead.
I still haven't seen that movie, The Offer. I would like to.
Oh boy, you just hit a raw nerve.
Oh, is it any? I mean, I don't know much about it.
Yeah, you know what? You go online today, the Daily News. Richard Johnson did a major story on me about The Offer, and it's a thorn in my side what they did to me. They bastardized me. I mean, I was suing them. That's what this is all about.
Oh, I didn't know all that. Yeah.
I pulled a lawsuit because I was spending so much money, and some wiser people than I said, Johnny, CBS, and they're just going to keep this going forever. Al Ruddy's 94. They'll wait for him to die. Then you invested all this money. The case goes nowhere.
Wow.
So now I'm going to the court of public opinion.
Well, I'll have to skip that one then.
Well, I'll go see it. I just watched it. I didn't want to watch it. I don't know if you have Paramount Plus.
I think I do.
Well, if you don't, for all your listeners and our listeners, you can go to Paramount Plus, get it a month for nothing. Watch everything you want for a month, and then don't renew.
But that's the making of the movie was a big story. But what Johnny's talking about is even a bigger story. It's interesting. That's for certain.
Yeah.
And anyway, we want to thank you for being on the show. I mean, this has been very enlightening.
Thanks for having me.
After we go off here, like I said, I'll get your address. I'll send you a book. And you're looking to launch your YouTube channel. Well, it's already launched, but if you're looking to expand it and have guests, Johnny's available.
I'd love that.
I definitely should do your show. No, I would love to. No, that's who we are. We share our viewers. That's what we want to do.
Yeah, and if it wasn't for the guests. It wasn't for the guests that we had and have been having, such as you. I mean, this is what makes a show. Guests.
Yeah, you guys have had some good ones on there. The show really took off. I mean, I've been listening to it for just pretty much about as long as it went, almost right when it came out. So again, anytime Costello's name comes up, reading it or watching it, something like that. So,
well, we're going to have on Rob Fried next week.
Oh, good. That'll be good. I enjoyed his book.
Yeah, he sent me he sent us the PDF. I'll have a chance to read it. But for those of you who are listening now, this is going to be a Frank Costello 24/7 channel.
Well, he really did his research. I was really surprised. When I first heard about that book coming out, I asked for a press copy to review it, but I didn't get it because I don't really have anything like that going. But he contacted me through the page after I read it. I put a nice little review on there, and so I talked to him. But I was real surprised because that it's fiction and that could go one of two ways. But he really did his research on that, and he put a lot of all those aspects of Frank in there. I thought he did a really good job.
Yeah, I just started it. The guy is a very good writer.
Yeah,
and it isn't. You can read a couple of days. It's only like 200 and something pages. It's not.
Yeah, short.
It isn't a big book. But anyway, we're having him on next week to add to your story.
Great! I can't wait to see that too.
So you get some publicity from that because we will definitely quote you and mention your name, obviously.
Absolutely.
Thank you, guys.
All right.
Thank you. All right. Well, thank you and continued success. And we'll put it up where you can find everything and your website and all that.
Yeah. Can't wait. I appreciate you guys doing this and continued success to you guys too.
Oh, thank you very much.
And anytime you want me to come on your show, let me know.
All right. Now I gotta do something.
There you go. Okay. Well, once again, Casey, thank you very much. And Gianni, I'll be seeing you. And good night, everybody.
All right.
All right. Good night,
everybody. Thank you. Stay safe in this crazy world.
And that was that. But I'll be back.
Thank you for tuning in to the Hollywood Godfather podcast. You can contact Gianni Russo or Patrick Picciarelli with your questions and comments through the contact section of our website, HollywoodGodfatherPodcast.com, which is where you can also subscribe to our weekly newsletter. You can also call and leave us a message at 646-776-3038. Remember to follow us on Instagram at Hollywood Godfather and on Facebook, as well as leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. We'd like to know what you like about what we're doing, what you'd like to hear in the future, and anything else you might suggest to improve our podcast. Most importantly, hit the subscribe button. We'll be back next week with stories of the mob in Hollywood as well as answers to your messages. Good night.
My kids still can't believe I sat with a saint. My life's like scenes out of a movie. I'm the Hollywood Godfather, truly. I got stories with them all. Celebrities, world leaders, icons. Who knows what's next for me? I'll never get too old to have a little fun. Come on, I'm Gianni Russo, a genuine one of a kind. What a ride it's been, this life of mine. And I ain't done yet. I'll be back. Until next time.
And that was that.
When I was 17, it was a very good year. It was a very good year for small town girls and soft summer nights. We'd hide from the lights on the village green. When I was 17, I didn't mind waiting